Well,
You're like a teacher.
so let's go ahead and get started with our meeting. Everyone had a chance to look at the newsletter and the minutes from the May meeting.
Yes.
Well compiled by, of course, there. Anybody have any questions about the well compiled minutes from the May meeting? Okay, so can I have a motion to the minutes as written be approved?
So moved.
Sir, everybody in favor? Ken, why don't you come up and give us a treasury report?
Okay, we started the month with $18,090.50. We had 2 new memberships that came in during the month. Then we had to pay PayPal for those so that's $2.52 that we lost. And then we paid for Zoom, which was $167.80. So we lost some money for the month. $17,964.08 left in the treasury. We have 1 new member. I said 2 memberships, but one was a we'll call it a late renewal. Somebody who had been a member and it just actually didn't pay before the end of the year, and so they came.
Before you go to sleep.
Who was that?
John Bates, or Jim Bates,
Jim Bates.
president. That Jim Bates. He basically went to use the remote station and found out I no longer a member and went, and he went, yeah, he did. He helped us out a lot. Okay, the new member is Joseph DeBecco, or something very close to that. He is K1NOX. He's an action. He wouldn't crack me up on this last. So anyway, can I have a motion to have us a new member? So moved. Second? All those in favor? Aye. All right. He passed. He's a member now.
Ken, so questions, the Zoom 167, is that for what time period? Year, month, 6 months?
Oh, that's a year.
Okay.
That's a year. Coming up, just so you guys know, PO Box, which is a decent charge, over $200,000, very close. And then we'll have the life insurance at the end of July.
Liability.
Liability.
So if anybody in the club dies, I get the president gets.
Yeah. We've already picked out. Anyway, so those are the upcoming fairly large expenses that we'll have.
I appreciate it. Any, old business anyone, to talk about? Old business? Go ahead, now Dan, you want to get to you? Yeah. You have old business stuff? How about that new business?
Could I say something about field day? I ran into the ARRL vice director. I'd call it assistant director because it sounds like it's director or vice, but Bill Marine, N2 COP, who lives in North Carolina. I ran into him in Dayton, and he said he and the director for the Roanoke division, which we are in, are both going to be trying to hit as many field day sites on that weekend in the Roanoke division as they can. And I know they're going to be talking to Rob Marshall at RATS about coming to the Richmond field day site that RATS is doing, and try to hit the Powhatan Club's field day site too as well. So if you want to meet your ARRL officials from this area, check with those 2 groups and see what time they're going to work their way from the Virginia coast up through Richmond and then go up to Northern Virginia. I don't know what day, but they're going to a lot of effort to get a lot of miles to cover as many sites, and be a good chance to meet and shake hands.
Since you brought up field day, Francis having today at Laurel Skate Park in Rica. And I think maybe Judy or Bill's on at the RARC website. If you wanna, they're asking for a sign up so they know how many radios to bring and also for food. Now, I don't know whether that applies to non-members. Judy or Bill, you want to hear that?
Fortunately, I'm all too experienced to this.
Anyway, I don't know whether food is available to non-members, but I guess if you wanted to make, if you're coming, you want to make a donation, maybe somebody would, one of the rest people. But anyway, they want to know how many people are coming. It starts at 2 o'clock. Or if you wanted to come early, that would set up, that would be appreciated. I see that.
Yeah, Bill and Judy are on.
Bill and Judy,
Something on your
They're
mind?
on mute.
call them, remind me. Bill and Judy.
Physically away.
Anyway, so I don't know whether that sign on their website, I'm a member of both companies, whether that applies to only members, but if they just want to get a head count of people who are coming, if you just want to come and operate, I don't think they would care. But they cook burgers and stuff like that. So.
Hey, what did he say?
Any other new business? Go ahead.
Finally, have my new call sign, because I copied it since I got my extra. So Will's new call sign is KR4CE, Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie Echo. Because my old one was Kilo Alpha 4,
You can do the sack together.
Romeo Alpha Charlie.
I like that better.
Kilo was like, that is a mouthful. So, because some people were starting to get to know it, so I just wanted to actually announce it. So,
Thank you.
Kilo Romeo 4, Charlie.
All right.
Forget about it.
And I'll tell Kevin
Did
to
you get to use that one in Ireland?
Yes, I did.
So Will went to Ireland, he got a repeater and built them. Couldn't understand the strange accent.
Yes, they were like fairies.
They actually talk.
Yes.
Any other new business?
I should write another. I'm sorry. I should write an article.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Talk about-
Yes.
I want to thank the Aaron for taking the man, helping people dispense with some music. Right. A lot of people coming to the club looking for some help. And so there's I guess I got an email the other day from a woman whose dad was east of here, she was in Rica, so Rica was taking on that responsibility. So I appreciate that. So any other, we can close the business part of the meeting, get to, so show the. Anyone in the remote audience have any questions or comments?
More investors, please, Major. It's already past this guy's bed.
No, remotely, give us a sign.
Two, so you're gonna show me what's driving me over there for now? This is it. It's all, I saw kids having a ball doing this with old barrel hoops. I stole it, I ran with it, only I used tubing from the motor pool. He gone and said, before you were born, look what stupid they were. Hey, you, I mean, they can make themselves out of any unsuspecting life of God, no.
Yeah. Watch the fire. So I don't know if they're hearing about Ken remotely.
Can everybody hear us remotely?
You're on Zoom and you hear us, raise your hand.
Yeah, there's a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if there's no other business, I seek a motion to close the business meeting.
I moved.
Second. Second.
Second.
In favor? We have show and tell tonight.
Hey, guys. Dennis and Volker and myself were having a breakfast the other day, solving the world's problems. And, we decided, it's a long way from the makers club, so let's make something ourselves.
Sounds like you took some pills.
Yes,
That helped the world's
yes,
problems.
plenty. What we decided, we were gonna try to make an old school transceiver, not Arduino based. And, I looked around the internet and I was having a hard time finding something that fit the bill. And I sent an email to Bill Maher from Solder Smoke, and he suggested that we start off more simple with a direct conversion receiver. And I've already built a direct conversion receiver before, but, the other guys, you know, I figured it'd be a fairly simple project that we could do. And, it would give us some experience, prototyping stuff, so that's what we're gonna do. And, Bill recommended what they call a high school, receiver, direct conversion receiver. They had came up with this simple receiver that they took to a local high school and they helped the kids put them together. And the VFO portion of it was actually 3D printed for the variable inductor. Okay, well, I didn't really like that idea because, you know, not everybody in the world has a 3D printer. So I decided to improvise. And I've got a mechanical pencil here.
So is that permeability tin?
It's permeability tin. It's a brass bolt and nut that goes in and out of this coil. And it works the opposite of a Fairlight core that would be inserted. Because if you insert a Fairlight core into a coil, the inductance actually goes up. But in this case, when you insert a screw into the coil, the inductance of the coil actually goes down.
Right.
Yeah, so as you screw it in, the frequency that you're creating actually is getting higher and higher frequency. If you screw it out, it's lower and lower frequency. Okay, so it worked out really well, and it makes a really nice sound wave. I've got the oscilloscope here, which I can show it to whoever wants to see it during the break, but it puts out a really nice sine wave. And I put way more coils on here than I needed to, but it works over the entire range. It'll go down to like 5.5 megahertz, and it'll go all the way up to like 7.4 megahertz. So I was only interested in 40-meter band, so I've got that plus a lot more. So it works really good. And one of the other improvisations that I made was the screw was a little bit on the wobbly side, sloppy. You know, so I figured that back of that would make fine tuning a little bit more difficult.
You can hold it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fine tuning it. Check the battery out, it doesn't fall. But the information I made was I have a little plastic tube that I put in there to butt up against the screw. And then I got a spring from an ink pen and put that in there also. And I put BBs in there to fill up the rest of the gap. And when you turn it, it makes it really smooth now. And the pressure from the spring holds the bolt tight to the nut. So there's very little play now. It's very smooth. So it was a good improvisation, and it works very well. So I'm really kind of surprised that after seeing how well it works, I'm surprised that in the past they were tending to use capacitors for tuning rather than this setup. Because like I say, it's very easy to produce one of these things with very little resources, and it works very well.
What does it do?
It's a VFO.
So it doesn't transmit it.
No. This is just part of the direct conversion receiver that we're making. This is the variable VFO of it. We're just getting a portion of it. I brought a little rough schematic of the layout of it, so it's not that big of a circuit. And the radio itself has maybe about 5 more stages or whatever, but none of them were complicated in this one. So
What's a little coil on the circuit board?
okay, this initially I made it and it called for a 10 microhenry choke, and I did it using a toroid.
This way.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, anyway, I did it with a toroid and it worked fine. But then I'm like, you know, I could probably do the same thing with just an air core and make a choke out of an air core. So I got a piece of tubing and wrapped coil in it. So as it turns out, this is about 9 microhenries and it worked fine. This is about 10.7 and it works fine. And they would call it 10. So, you know, like I say, rather than using one of my toroids, I figured I'd use an air core because, like I say, it's easy to come up with some enameled wire and some kind of tubing. that's a little bit easier than coming up with the Polaroid that you have to obtain somewhere. So, yeah, so this is something that pretty much anybody can make with basic.
So are there any active components of the board? I can't see.
Yeah, there is a J310, JPEG and a 2N3904. And then those are the only active components. So that's pretty much it. No, just a variable. Ability tuned oscillator, so that's it.
And there with some capacitor of some kind, or
As well.
is there capacitance in there as well?
Well, yeah, there's capacitance. This is the tuned circuit, the tank circuit. So you have fixed capacitors and a variable inductor, right? Yeah, so, yeah. And the good thing about doing a pin like this is the length of the shaft makes it very easy to put into your battery operated drill. And it makes it very easy to slowly wind the coil to length of the pin. And then I took some super glue and just kind of went along the front of it and along the back of the coil, and that kind of locked everything in, kept it nice and solid.
So the scope is just on there for display purposes.
The scope is to show, I don't know if you can see it from distances, but when you come up to see it during the break, you'll be able to see,
We can look at it.
yeah, but, it puts out a very nice sine wave. Over the entire range, it's a nice sine wave. So. Thanks.
Okay, and David Stevens has some things he wants to show us.
Last couple of field days, the people operating on 40 and 20, I wanted to create a bandpass filter. So ARRL had a article. It is a Butterworth 3-stage filter. So I started playing around with that, and I was somewhat successful with it. Show you what it looks like. Very crudely put together. It actually was sitting in one of the boxes here. So I'll explain why you see it like this way. So it's resonant in the middle of a 40-meter band, and I was trying to look at the rejection. When you watch the video on YouTube with these filters, they look like they're doing a fabulous job. And I'm not really up on all the electronics, but I can tell you that this filter has a minus 30 to 33 dB when you're down on the 20-meter band with the 40-meter filter. My 20-meter bill did not go in the band, so I didn't know how to adjust it. So I was looking around, and there is a commercial filter, which is what I went and put together that looks like this. And this is on the 20-meter band. It's sitting at 14.3. And my understanding is if you play with the coil windings here, you can adjust the frequencies, and the coils here can adjust the SWR. Right now, the SWR on this guy is about 1.8, but it's still minus 30 to 33 dB. So the question is, will this actually work on field day, which I'm.
So when you say SWR, you're looking at a dummy load at the center of the bandpass. That's what your SWR is, 1.8?
Correct.
Okay, so it'd be higher.
It goes to infinity. But the rejection, well, the insertion loss is about 0.5 in the 20-meter band, which is good. But what the log, whatever it's called, when you use the DNA, learn about myself, playing with it. That curve goes down to, like I say, minus 30 dB. And whether that's enough for the guys on 40, is it really going to block him coming in on 20? So we'll see. This one I'm going to adjust to get the SWR down. There's a guy that made one for 10 meters, and he's got the SWR down to 1.04. That's for 10 meters. So why can't I get this thing down to 1.2 or whatever? So anyway, I've got both articles here, the commercial guy here. I was fortunate I had the boxes, the board and all the parts was like $25. to the,
That's the SWR, you're putting a dummy, a 50 on dummy.
correct,
That's how you're doing it.
well. SW1, S11.
Sorry, I wondered to what extent the reactants of the filter components contribute to the higher SWR.
When you go off frequency,
No, you're on frequency.
on frequency,
What you're saying, that's 9. Yeah, this is perfectly balanced out.
he knows more than I do. The problem I've had is understanding, especially with this guy in the ARRL, how do you tune this guy on 40 meters was okay, but I was looking to be more minus. Because when I see a couple screenshots with people that have the frequency generated, they're down at -60. So I have no idea whether this is going to work, but we'll give it a try.
Thank you. Anybody have any, the bands have not been too good lately every time I've checked. The sun is messing up and everything. Even on 6 meters, I have some very weak FTA, but I haven't heard of that's correct. Anybody have any better experience? So tonight's win is going to give us an update on the Hamvention 2024. So why don't we take a, say, a 5-minute break and then we can get started. Before we get started, Tom, VIC had brought in some grid square maps over here. If people need a US grid square map, Tom. Okay. And, let's go ahead and listen to what Wynn has to say about the hand.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna do a PowerPoint of some pictures, but for now, I just want to tell you a few things about the Hamvention. First time I went was probably 12, 15 years ago, and I've been a ham since I was 13, I guess, and I've never been to Hamvention. And I said, time's running out, I better go. Oh, too long, I won't be around. So my friend Ray gave me before I set up, and I've known since the 4th grade, we went to Hamvention and we got there, and it was impressive. We've been a number of times, not every single year, but we've been a number of times since that first visit. The first Hamvention in Dayton was held in 1952. Some of us were alive, barely. They held it in a hotel in downtown Dayton that has long since disappeared from the map. And they moved it out to the Hara Arena. I'll show you some pictures of that in a minute, but Hara in 1964, the last Hamvention in the Hara Arena was in 2016, and they moved it to Xenia, Ohio. I'm going to show you pictures of all this. But they've held it every year since 1952, except for COVID 2020 and 2021. They decided they couldn't pull it off. Too many people too close together. So no Hamvention for those two years. Dayton, I guess you could say there's a debate as to whether the Dayton Hamvention is the largest Hamvention in the world or not, because here are the numbers. This past year, just last month in May, their attendance was 35,877. That's a lot of people at a ham fest. But the Tokyo Ham Fair, they count their numbers differently. Both of these are 2-day events, but they have usually Friday and Saturday or whatever. Dayton actually has a half day on Sunday, but Dayton just looks at how many tickets they sold, I think. The Tokyo Ham Fair, they count the number of people that come in each day, and they claimed that over 2 days, they had 43,000 people attend. So they say, well, we're the biggest because we had 10,000 or 8,000 people more than Dayton. But I think a lot of those people went both days, so we don't know whether those are, unique visits or not, but whatever. And anybody want to know what's in 3rd place in the world in terms of attendance? Friedrichshafen, they call it ham radio, is what they call it. Friedrichshafen, Germany, and Lake Constance.
Spokane.
Yep, last year, 11,000. So quite a bit smaller than either of the other two, almost just only a third of what they did, but it's a pretty cool place, and I think I have almost gone to both of those, but it never worked out timing wise. Maybe before my time here is over, I'll get to those other two, but I would love to see both of them, especially Tokyo. That's a lot farther ride to go to, and they're about as different in terms of the approaches, I think, as you would find. Friedrichshafen is, from the pictures I've seen, the people I've talked to, it's kind of like camping out in the woods. You know, it's a very rustic place, and they're not like Marriott hotels, you know, across the street that you can walk to the Hamfest to. There are not a lot of accommodations, and a lot of the Germans bring their campers, and they just put up a tent or get into little caravan, as they call them in England, a little trailer, and live there. So I'm not really interested in that. I'm not a camper. I think I'll go to Tokyo and stay in a hotel, even though it's twice as far away. Who would you say are the two most famous people that you think of associated with Dayton, Ohio in history?
Right.
The Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright, right? It's also the home of the National Cash Register Company. The NCR made cash registers in Dayton until they stopped making cash registers, which they did. But they have a real cool museum, an NCR museum there. But it's still famous for the cash registers. Now, there is a food product that was invented in Dayton in 1921. Did anybody happen to notice what that might be based on what is sitting on the back of the room there? There's a black tray back there with something in it.
Just do this. All right, here you are.
The cheese was invented in Dayton, Ohio in 1921.
Are you getting compensation?
I'm not. I drove to Costco tonight to buy this, my own money in a hurry to be able to bring you the second most, after the airplane, the second most famous product in Dayton, Ohio, I guess you could say. Bicycles are also having some connection to Dayton, Ohio, but the Cheez-It Company was invented there in 1921. And there's a box or a tray of Cheez-Its back there that anybody who wants to remind themselves what a good junk food Cheez-Its are. Okay, one other fact about the Hara Arena. It was an ice skating rink. They had ice that they brought in there, like the Richmond Coliseum used to do. They had they had high school proms at the Hara Arena. They had a lot of famous musical presentations there. Among the people who performed at the Hara Arena, where Hamvention lived for about 50 years, Bob Dylan, the Beach Boys, Ronnie Millsap. Anybody know about Ronnie Millsap? He's a ham operator. I don't remember his call sign, but he is. John Denver, Rod Stewart, and in 1964, the Rolling Stones performed in the Hara Arena. Now, my first visit to the Hara Arena. Well, let me just go ahead. I've got a few pictures from my first visit to Hara, and some others here that will get you on here. Let's see. So crap. Let's close the PowerPoint. Hold on. We'll have to share the screen here, so.
Yeah.
But get that to that. Okay. Okay, so that's what the Hara Arena looked like in the 1950s. It was 2 or 3 buildings. One, the big building on the left was the main building. It was like a Coliseum type building, you know, with the center lower floor, and they had the concerts and things there, seating all the way around it, and there were a couple of ancillary buildings. Anybody recognize this character here? This was the last year of Hamvention in 2016, and there is WA4J, Alan Johnson from Richmond, one of our members, who was working the booth there on the last Hera Arena. I was surprised every year how many foreign visitors came to Dayton. This is the Kuwait, I think, amateur radio club here. They had a big presence there a number of years, and also in Xenia, but I didn't see them this year.
Can you go back real quick, Wayne?
I can try. This one or no?
To Alan? You said that's
Oh.
Alan?
That's Alan Johnson, yeah. WA3J.
He does look different.
Well, it was years ago. It was like, what, eight years ago.
I'm also half blind, so there's
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I'm losing my name. My side, my technology.
No, that was out, okay, and, this guy here, you probably seen it before, you'll see it again here. This was the Flex radio booth at Dayton in 2016, which was a very small little booth. They had, I think, one product there, and they were just kind of getting started with their 6,000 series radios, which they rolled out, and it took a few years to grow the product line, but as you'll see in a minute, things have changed a lot. This is Xenia, Ohio, the Greene County Fairgrounds, where the Hamvention has been held since 2017, the first year in Xenia. At the top right of the scene there, you see a oval. That's a horse racing track. They have this is a county fairgrounds in Ohio, and they have horse races and events around the track when they're using it for the county fair, and I guess at other times. But it's kind of a neat place because the center of that is the flea market, the majority of it. There's some other areas where they have flea market, but there's a lot of space there for flea markets out there. There's another drone shot showing some of the buildings and what it looks like. Now, they really love Hamvention in Greene County. They've done everything they can to accommodate ham radio. They put these signs up on the buildings, and they named them after radio people. There's the Maxim Hall, Hiram Percy Maxim, the original founder of the ARRL, and there's the Tesla Hall, there's the Hertz Hall. But if you look over on the left-hand side there, the permanent sign on it is, it's the sheep and goat exhibit. So it really is a county fairground, but they accommodate hams for that every year. They do have some on-site parking at the fairgrounds. The first year there, they told people you could park your cars on the grass if you could walk over to the Hamvention, and very convenient. It rained a lot, and a lot of cars got stuck in mud and couldn't get out of the grass parking area. So the next year they said, I think we better find an alternative. They closed the schools in Greene County now for Hamvention on the Friday of Hamvention. No school, and they allow the hams to park in all the school paved parking lots, and they use the school buses to transport the hams from the schools to the Greene County Fairgrounds. It works great. I mean, the school bus drivers love it because they all have a big tip jar on the dashboard. The hams are all given them $2 or $3 or $5. So if they don't charge you for it, it's free, but it's nice. People contribute. They make a lot more money in those 2 days than they do probably in 6 months of driving the school bus. So the Xenia High School is the main parking lot that we always use. We stand in line and we wait for the school bus, just like we did, many years ago when we were kids, except that we're not going to school. We're going to the county fair. When we went this year in May, the first day, it was not looking too good weather-wise. It was rated pretty good. So we were standing there with our raincoats and our umbrellas waiting for the school bus. School bus picked us up, took us right to the entrance here, and there's a sign there saying, welcome Hamvention, and it was still raining pretty good when we got there and walked in. And I was thinking, this may be the shortest amount of time we spend, outside at the Hamvention that I've ever done. But even though we were all there walking in about the same time, it was slowing down. The rain was letting up. It actually dissipated within about an hour, hour and a half before it stopped. It was still a little bit muddy, but that didn't stop people from walking around the flea market area. And anybody who's ever done the flea market at Dayton knows to be prepared. They bring their, covered coverings for their goods, and they set them out and they wait for the rain to stop. And there is a little bit of everything in the flea market, as you're going to see here. That was one of the biggest collections of vacuum tubes in one place that I think I've ever seen. This guy had tables, and some of them didn't even make it in the picture, but probably had a vacuum tube if you needed a vacuum tube in the flea market area. Need a tower? Need feed line for the tower? I think that's 1 7/8 inch heliax, and looks like probably some Ron 55. All you gotta do is bring your trailer and move it to your trailer and drive it home, and you're all done. You just show up in Dayton and you can buy a tower. This guy had adapted his, I guess that's a Dodge Ram truck there, to have a little bigger mobile operating rig than most of us have in our cars. Power strips. Sign says $3 each, 2 for $5, and he had more that you couldn't see in the picture. So what a deal! You go to Dayton, you spend $500 on a hotel so you can buy a $2 power strip. And tell you what, I saved $5. It's a little bit of false economy sometimes when we talk about, oh, what a bargain this was, but there's everything there. Now, one of the real weaknesses of Hamvention at the Hera Arena was the food. Hera Arena had a lock on the food, and they controlled it, and you couldn't buy any food except from them, and their food was horrible and overpriced. The Greene County people have opened it up to all the food trucks that go to fairs out in the Midwest, and there's all kinds of opportunities to get food. Obviously, the sun came out. You can see in this picture from now on. And the food business is almost a reason in itself to go to Hamvention, because there's a little bit of everything. It's hard to see, but that guy's eating like a chicken cutlet sandwich that looks like it's about 6 inches across, and there's a close up of one. That's the biggest chicken sandwich I've ever seen. It's got the blood there. So lots of good food at Hamvention.
Watching it online, and someone mentioned homemade ice cream.
Yeah, there's a lot of ice cream there too. This is not a lemonade drink, but a lemonade shake. Yes, that's something they have in Ohio. I didn't know what that was, but my friend Ray standing at the line there was happy to get one. Frozen sweet tea. We have sweet tea in the South, but I never had frozen sweet tea.
No, that's new.
That must be a Ohio delicacy. This was inside one of the indoor places, the Unity company. They make test equipment, and it's very reasonably priced test equipment, and it's pretty good stuff. You can buy their stuff. I think Amazon sells it, and a lot of other vendors carry it. It's made in China, most of it is, but it's actually pretty good quality stuff. And if you look at these prices for the Hamfest, they were knocking about 33% off of their regular price if you bought it at the show, and they had them in stock. You could get everything they carry. They basically had, or in test equipment, they had it right there. You could walk home with it. You didn't have to have it shipped and wait for it to show up. So this was the first year they've been to Hamvention, and I talked to these guys for a few minutes, and I'm glad to see people like this show up at these shows. That almost came home with me, but it didn't. I looked at it 3 times. I kept going down. Do I need that? No. I don't need it. Do I want that? Yeah, I want it. Well,
No, you need it.
need versus want. And I listened to my brain instead of my
I
heart.
don't think his wife would let him in the door.
She's understanding is all get out. She would not have complained. But I really had my eye on that spectrum analyzer. I made a mistake of going to their website and looking after the first day at the show, and I saw they had a couple of other models that looked even better, but they were even more expensive. I said, just not gonna buy anything. If I don't get the right one, I don't buy the wrong one and regret that I spent a couple $100 to get the faster. But anyway, that was kind of cool. This is a company that all of us who work on repeaters know very well, TXRX Systems, makes duplexers. They probably make 90% of the duplexers that are sold for ham repeater use. Their customers are largely commercial customers, but they make really good stuff. They were bought by Bird Electronics for a few years, and Bird spun them off as a separate company, sold it back to somebody a few years ago. So they're an independent company now. But I think that guy in the picture there is actually a guy named Andrew Johnson, who I used to have his business card at my desk, and when I bought the duplexers for the D-Star repeaters, he was the guy that sold them to me, and he's still working for the company selling duplexes. It's just kind of fun to be able to go in there and see stuff, not just look at a catalog and get an idea of what things look like. You can assess the quality of something a lot better if you see it in person than you looking at a picture of it. And this is really good quality stuff. Everybody knows ICOM. They typically have, I would say, the biggest display area of any commercial manufacturer, which makes sense because they sell more radios, I think, than anybody by far. This was interesting this year. I'm going to tell you, they did something a little different from any other year that I've seen ICOM at Dayton. They had a big corner there. This year, their display consisted of a history of the products that they've been making for 60 years. And they had this big graphic, but they had almost every major HF radio that they've made in the last 60 years. Now, if you look closely at that, you'll notice something about that radio. That's an ICOM, I think that's a 7800. Yeah, well, that's a 7800. I had one of those radios a few years ago. I think it was my favorite radio I've ever owned. It was cool. I like buttons and knobs, and as you can see, this has got a lot of them. Do you notice anything a little unusual about the front panel of that particular radio? It's missing a knob. Missing a couple of knobs. I think somebody came through the Hamfest who needed a knob for a 7800. I think they helped themselves to it. I don't think I would put that radio out there without the knobs in place. That's not the reason you go to Hamfest to steal a knob from ICOM. But I'm pretty sure somebody said, "Oh my gosh, that's the knob." I look at it, there it is. And there's one on the right hand side. It looks like somebody helped themselves to a knob, which is unfortunate. This is can't read the number. I think it's 5,700. Is it 781?
Yeah.
Okay, it says 1988. That was the year that came out. A lot of these things bring back memories for us. So they had a whole bunch of stuff. Pretty much all the major radios they've made for many years. Now this is current production here. This is the I think it's a 905. This is the VHF, UHF microwave radio that has different one control head, different radio modules. All the radio modules will run over Ethernet with power going over the Ethernet line. Dave Meyer, N4MW, who lives down in New Kent, has 2 of these. I said, Dave, why did you buy 2 of these? He said, I needed somebody to talk to. Nobody else had a 10 gigahertz microwave radio that I'll talk to. So I bought a second one. I'm going to loan it to people who will talk to me. So if you want to operate 10 gigahertz microwave for a period of time and you're not terribly far from New Kent, talk to Dave. He might be able to loan you a radio for a few weeks so that he can make some contacts. But it's pretty cool stuff. That was state of the art. 2 years ago, this is their PW2 solid state power amplifier that ICOM makes. This was a new product 2 years ago, but it wasn't available for sale then. And I think they're available now. It's kind of cool. It's got a remote control little control head there that can control the amp, so you can stick the amplifier in another room if you wanted to. These solid state amps make a lot of noise, a lot of fan noise to cool those transistors, so they all have some type of remote feature. So that was there. Now, this was the big deal about ICOM's display this year. It's the 60th anniversary of the company, and they had in a plexiglass case what you see right there. There are a number of circuit boards, and they basically said, take a guess as to what we're gonna build for our 60th anniversary radio. We're not telling you what it is, we're not telling you whether it's HF, VHF, anything about the specs, but these are the circuit boards, and you can guess, and we'll see who comes the closest to guessing something about the radio. The radio details will be announced on August 24th at the Tokyo Ham Fair. So if you're just dying to know, you can go to the website of the Tokyo Ham Fair on August 24th, and I'm sure they'll have a prototype of the actual radio. But right now, they just have all these circuit boards in a big plexiglass case, and you can get, I mean, it's gotta be an HF radio, and it's gonna be, I'm guessing, a lot of money. The 7850 is the last HF radio that they made. The list price of those was $15,000, and I don't think this is gonna be any cheaper. I'm afraid this is gonna be up there, but it'll be fun. You know, it's always good when a manufacturer makes something that advances the state of the art and encourages the competition to make something new. So
Better start saving your money now.
yeah, you might want to start saving the money now if you're gonna buy one, because like I say, I'm thinking.
Get your wife so.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, why don't you just go to Tokyo instead of looking at the website?
I might.
Yeah, I might, this is your chance.
I was in Tokyo in January, but I couldn't go to the Ham Fair because it wasn't going on in January, but we were.
Or you could have done a Doctor Who,
Yeah,
you know.
that's true. So anyway, stay tuned, all you Icon fans, August 24th, let's all find out what Icon has in store for us. Kenwood was there, in terms of the presence, Icon had a corner of one of the buildings, and Kenwood had about 15 feet, in their little humble booth, but God bless them, they were there, and they announced this very expensive handy talkie a couple of years ago. You've been able to buy them now for 6 or 8 months. I know folks that have them. It's a great radio. So I'm glad Kenwood's still making the radios. I'm glad they came today. They skipped a couple of years because they really didn't have a product. And 2 years ago, I don't think they even had a booth. So I'm glad they were back. This was an interesting thing here. When you see the inside of it in a minute, you'll know what it was. But some of us old timers, our dream HF radio was Collins S-line equipment. That was the gold standard of radio equipment. There wasn't anything better than a Collins radio. And this was what Collins radio used to take to Hamfest back in the 1960s when the S-line was being produced. That's the inside of the van. And all of these S-line radios, that's a 30L1 amplifier on the left. It looks like a 51S1 receiver, a 75S3, then the power supply, and then the transmitter. These all work, and it was a beautiful little van there. I think it was a Chevy van that they built. But the guy who was driving this thing had to be able to operate the radio too, so they had a KWM2 transceiver up there on the floor for him to operate when he's driving it, because he couldn't be in the back and drive the truck at the same time. So that was a really cool thing. Apparently somebody bought this from Collins Radio. I don't think it had any equipment in it, but they bought the van, they restored the van, and they put all restored radios in. It was just kind of a neat thing. You CW folks, one of the big names in CW hardware, the Bigali keys, they come from Italy every year. I did not see Mr. Bigali there this year. That's his daughter, I think, kind of leaning over into the picture. She's always there. He has come many years in a row, but I didn't see him this year. So, but they got a big presence and lots of people up there buying Morse code keys. So code is still alive. We had, again, a foreign contingents from various countries. This was the German Amateur Radio Club here on the right. If you look to the left, I think that's the French club. RAC, I think, is the French club. So we're going to do a little quiz right now here. We're going to see some pictures of people who were at Dayton, and you're going to try to identify who they are. These are people in the radio business or ham radio as in some capacity who have some notoriety, I'll call it. So we're gonna name the ham. Let's see how many you can get. Anybody recognize the guy in the middle with the white shirt on? Okay, there's a hint. Look at what's on the wall behind him. See ARRL? Well, that's Rick Roderick, who's the president of the ARRL. He's there shaking hands, talking to people, and you know, you can go up to the president of the ARRL and say, hey, by the way, I didn't like that article in QST last month, and my QST arrived 2 days late. What are you going to do about that? I'm sure he would say nothing. But
Or where's the look of the world?
right, but these people are approachable, even the people up in some of these positions that we think of as you know, important positions in radio things. So how about this fella here? Anybody recognize him?
Eric Schwartz.
That's Eric Schwartz. Yes, he's the one of the founders of Eloprint and designer of most of their radios. He has a partner. There's two guys, and he's 50% of it. But he's a great guy. He's there. You know, if you have a question about the K4 transceiver, you could talk to the guy that designed it. That's the guy right there who designed the transceiver, and he knows how to operate it. I'll show you some more pictures of his booth in a minute. How about the guy in the white hair there? No hints needed. If you look at the background there. Well, that's Gerald Youngblood, the founder of Flex Radio, who designed most of their radios. The guy in the middle of the picture is his chief technical officer, who now, Steve Hicks, designs most of the radio hardware and a lot of the software. They have, I mean, it's a group effort, but those two guys basically have done more to design the Flex gear over the last 10 or 15 years as anybody else. How about these two guys? Well, that's Dave Thomas.
Dave Thomas and I forgot the other guy's name.
And Russ Martin. That's right. That's right. Two of our members here. They were there. If you ever see these guys around, be sure to ask Russ how he liked his hotel that Dave picked out. It's a great story. I'm not going to say any more than that. They thought he got a good deal, and Russ was ready to come home after 5 minutes in the room. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Two Richmond, Virginia guys, right, members of our club, right there in the Dayton Hamvention. Here's some other people from Richmond. You recognize anybody there? Like,
Yeah, I see Dan.
that's Dan Bryant standing right in the middle there. That's right. He sure is. And that's my friend Ray on the right, who I went with that I showed earlier, maybe before I separated. And this is Parks, trying to remember his last name. He's from Richmond also.
That big matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in this picture here, do you see anybody? Ray is in multiple pictures, but you see the two people, woman standing up in the middle there to the right.
Sissy?
That's Sissy and Dave. I talked about Dave Meyer and 4MW sitting down, and Sissy, can't remember her call sign, but they were there. Dave usually has a truck in the flea market. I said, what? No booth in the flea market? He said, no, traveling light this year. So they're from Richmond and they were there. Anybody recognize?
Gordon West.
Gordon West, that's right. Gordon was there. He looked the same as he did in that picture I showed at the beginning from 2016. He didn't look a day older than he was. I wish I could age like Gordon West. He was there. Now, I don't have a picture of him, but I don't know if you know who K9CT is. His truck was parked in the parking lot near where I was. This is Craig Thompson. If you want to see a contest station that will make your head explode, go to the QRZ page and look up K9CT. You see his antenna farm, you think you're looking at the Voice of America, you know, from the towers and stuff. He's got an unbelievable station out there. So I didn't see Craig. I've seen him in the past with there were 35,000 people there, but I did see his truck parked right next to me. And so I know he was there. Oh my gosh. There's Russ Martin again, but he's wearing a different shirt here. I wish he was here to tell us how he got that shirt. Today he's wearing an Icon t-shirt, and of course Dave's wearing an Icon t-shirt last night or today in this picture. Yeah, today he had a different shirt on. Maybe Icon was giving away free t-shirts. You think? Yes, well, I got a couple in my closet at home, that if you went to the ICOM, event they had on Friday night, they were giving away free t-shirts. And I'll show you another picture in a minute. ICOM was in this very small little room with probably 50, 60 people in it. They gave away an ID52 HT. That's a $600 radio. And so your chances of winning that radio were pretty high with that few people. It's a really cool event. It's not officially part of Hamvention, but it's associated with it. And like I said, these guys scarfed up a good t-shirt. Okay, who do you think is associated with this vehicle? What famous person? I say we're talking about famous people here.
Elon Musk.
That's right. Elon Musk is in that car. You just can't see him, but he's behind the tinted glass. You're exactly right. Just kidding. That was the first Cybertruck I'd seen up close. I'll show you another picture in a minute and tell you something about it. Okay, back to some of the exhibits that we saw there. This was back where Eric Schwartz, the Elecraft founder, was demonstrating the K4. This radio's been out for a while. It's a really cool radio, and the sort of the cutting edge for a lot of HF gear now is the ability to remote control the radio. A lot of us aren't gonna be able to have antennas where we live, and maybe we don't want to sit at a computer and pretend like we're using the radio and feel like a radio, feel like a computer. With the K4, you can have a K4 here, plug an Ethernet cable into the back of it, and somebody anywhere else in the world, you can operate their K4 from a K4. That's not all you can do with the K4. That's one thing you can do. You can operate a radio remotely by using the buttons and the knobs and just an internet connection. You can also get this is a tablet they've got on it, running the Elecraft software, which is basically mirroring the front panel. And on the bottom right is a little knob there, USB knob that'll allow you to tune the radio, so you can operate it that way. This is called a K40, I think. Isn't this what they call it?
Or K4 Mini or K40.
Yeah. This is the front panel of the radio, but there's no radio in it. It's the electronics, it's the display and the knobs, but all of the RF equipment is not in this, but it operates just like a K4 radio. So if you're in an apartment or anywhere, you get this, plug in your internet connection, and you have your K4 somewhere else with your antenna and your amplifier or whatever, or your friend's K4 that is going to let you operate it. The only thing about this is they've been talking about it for 4 years. They've never sold because they haven't finished it. They don't have a price on it. Nobody knows what it's going to cost. But I mean, obviously it's working. They had it working, and Eric was controlling his home station, and I think he lives in San Diego. He said he's got a tower on what's the beam that has the movable elements in it that shows it. Yeah. It's a great concept, and I think they will sell a lot of these. They had one for the K3 that they actually sold, and you could buy them, and they work. But the K4 has only been out for about 4 years now, and they're still working on this. But I thought it was a neat concept. Here's another way you can control a K4 with a tablet, the tuning knob, and an internet connection. You don't even have to buy that panel. That panel is probably going to be $1,800, $2,000, because the radio is what, 5,000 or 6,000, I guess they're on right now.
4,807.
Yeah, right around 5,000. So to buy the big hardware is going to not be inexpensive, but this is going to be a whole lot cheaper, where all you need is a K4 somewhere and the panel and the knob. Not to be outdone, Flex decided about a week before Hamvention to put out a lot of notices and emails, big thing on their website. Oh, see what's going to be new at Dayton. We have a surprise announcement at Dayton. And sure enough, they did. They announced the 8,000 series radio, which is their new SDR radio. Guess what? It looks just like a 6,000 radio. And the main difference is it's got newer components inside, and primarily in the computer side of it, not so much in the radio side of it, but this is, they admitted that a lot of this decision to move away from their current hardware platform was because they can't get parts for something that these radios were designed 10 or 11 years ago, and a lot of the parts are no longer available. So they've come out with the new 8,000 series radios, which look and operate for now just like the 6,000. And the prices weren't bad. They were pretty close to what the prices of the radios are now. But they will have a longer lifespan. They'll be able to produce new software eventually that will provide new features. And they have their amplifiers. This is their antenna tuner. This is their 1,500 watt amplifier. So it was fun, big booth there, fun to talk to the people from Flex. This is another side shot of the Begali Key folks. They were selling, $300 and $400 keys like popcorn. It was crazy how much interest there was in that. Yaesu, God bless them, they were there. They were giving away free hats. You see the guy on the right-hand side with a brown and black Yaesu hat. He just got that hat for free because they used to give them away free if you just walked up and asked for one. Then a couple of years ago, they got smart. Now they take your admission ticket and they punch a hole in it, and you have to show your admission ticket. So if it has a hole in it, it means you already got your free hat. Get out of line. You're not getting the second one. You got your free hat, but it's still nice of them to show up and give away something. They had a couple of radios on display, nothing brand new. These have been out for a while, but it was good of them to be there and set up the radios, and people could spin the knobs and ask questions. This was an interesting sign. I'm trying to remember. I think this was Diamond Antennas. They had a big booth, big table with nothing on it. They put a sign up on it and said, unfortunately, FedEx shipped our suitcase full of product to Seattle, Washington, and it didn't arrive. We have nothing to show you, but if you want to see it, there's a couple of vendors over here, R&O Electronics and Gigaparts and DX Engineering are selling Diamond Antennas. Go over there and see them and buy them. Sorry, we didn't have our display with all the Diamond antennas that we usually bring. They got shipped to the wrong city, and they had a minimal display.
With smiley face.
Yeah. Luso is the Japanese tower company that makes this unbelievably beautifully engineered and manufactured crank up tower. They make them in heights from like 50 to 150 feet. They're motorized. They're truly a work of art. And most every year they have a tower laying there, one section or a couple of sections of it, horizontal, sitting there in the display room, and it's going to some lucky ham who just paid $40,000 for that tower. And it's gonna, after the show, it'll be shipped to his location and he'll install it. But for some reason this year, the tower didn't make it. They said it was delayed in shipping, but I think the guy on the right said he was the owner of the new Luso tower that's on its way, but didn't get to Xenia in time to lay hands on it. But it's the coolest thing ever. They even have a feature on that tower if you want to pay extra for it. It has an anemometer, a wind speed indicator on the tower. And if the wind gets too high, if you left it cranked up in the high position all the way at its full height, it will say, oh, well, we got 40-mile-an-hour winds. I think we should lower the tower. And the tower just comes on down to a 20-foot level and protects your tower. Your HOA would go for that, wouldn't it? Rick, as long as you could lower it down, right? Yeah. So another cool thing about Dayton are the forums. This is one that I went to. These two guys that did this were from a radio club in Kentucky, and they were interesting guys. I don't think they've been hams terribly long, but they're both IT instructors. They give seminars all around the country on IT topics, but they have rejuvenated their local radio club, and they're doing all kinds of things. But the topic of this talk was how to keep your radio club, active or something like that. When people don't want to do anything, they just want to come to meetings and hear a guy with a PowerPoint talk about, a Hamfest or something like that. How do you keep them interested? And they had a list of 10 things. And I'm happy to report that our club does about 8 of the 10 things. I won't go over them now, but they really, if we had a scorecard there, I think we would have got a good passing grade for what we do. They talked about this and people asked questions, and I thought it was very interesting to hear how other clubs operate. This was another forum that I went to, which I really enjoy. This is the Ham Radio and the Law Forum. This is Fred Hoppengarten there, whom I know. He wrote the book on antennas and zoning. I showed a copy of it last year when I did the presentation on antennas and HOAs. Fred wrote that book, and he was talking about a different topic here. This is Bob Conviglia, who's a ham and an electrical engineer and a lawyer in the Maryland, Delaware area. If you're trying to put up a tower and you got a lot of money to spend on legal fees and your county is telling you, we don't like the tower, you hire Bob and he'll get you permission to put up your tower in most cases. He's a really smart guy, but these two guys talked about different issues with HOAs and things like that. I always enjoy what they have to say. So another shot of the picnic area here. Now, I did talk, a couple of months ago about my tower and getting in an HOA, but this was a new idea. I had not seen this idea before, but these guys, it's a little hard to see in this picture. I should have cropped it a little closer. That's a fire truck there, and it's got the ladder extended, and on top of the ladder is an antenna. So I'm thinking HOA says no, towers on your property. Well, it's not on your property. It's a fire truck parked on a public street. What are they going to do? You just park the fire truck. You run it. Say, now, would you rather have me put a tower in my backyard or leave my fire truck parked in the front yard? HOA, take your pick. So it's always somebody thinking ahead here. I read an internet article about somebody who was having trouble with the HOA about parking their car in the driveway, and it was a truck, or they didn't like the HOA president was giving them a hard time, said you can't park that truck in the driveway, it's too big or whatever. So they said, okay, fine. So they parked the truck on this public street in front of the HOA president's house and left it in front of her house. Fine, it's not in my driveway, it's on a public street, nothing you can do about it. So fire truck might be an option as well. I mentioned that ICOM did an event that they've done every year, which was on Friday night. It wasn't at Hamvention, it was at a hotel about 20 miles away from the fairgrounds. This is Fred Varian, who is ICOM's D-Star tech support guru. Whenever I've had a question about something D-Star, you call ICOM's tech support and you just say, can I speak to Fred? And he's the guy. But they did this in a hotel. They actually fed us dinner. The first time I went to this 10, 15 years ago, they had a box of cookies and a bottle of Kool-Aid on the table. And now they had pizza and drinks and all kinds of stuff. So didn't have to buy dinner that night. But he was there. Anybody who has ever operated a Raspberry Pi type hotspot device on a digital mode? Well, this is Jonathan Naylor, the guy that wrote the software, the Pi-Star software. He flew in from England. Somebody apparently bought him a ticket. He said, he didn't say who it was, but he said, I couldn't afford to make this trip on my own, but some generous person or company bought him a plane ticket, and he was there. Talking about some new developments and hotspots in the Pi-Star software. Jonathan was there. Back to the flea market on the second day. I felt like this was the year of the heat kit. This was all heat kit stuff. Brings back a lot of memories. But every year it seems like you see a certain genre of equipment in the flea market. Some years it's Collins, some years it's Holocrafters. This year seemed to be the heat kit year. Of course, there's some Johnson radio equipment there too. Notice the price had come down from $40 to $30, and it even said buy two, get one free. So what did the, I'll bet you could have gotten it for 25 if you waved money in front of it. That's a couple of challenges they call them. That's model radio. You might have needed two to get one working. I'm thinking from looking at it, but And again, in the flea market, people haul huge things that take up space that I would hate to be the guy that brought this rack of cavities, set it up at the flea market, and then had to take it home and, not be able to get rid of it. But I guess they know that's a possibility, but there's literally everything in the flea market. If you want an HT, these were a bunch of young kids that had a whole table full of Motorola digital radios that they were selling, that they could program for you as well, and knew what they were doing. I took that picture because that was my first real ham radio receiver, the Hamvention HQ129X I had for a number of years. I would go turn it on about an hour before I wanted to use it so it could warm up, because when you first turned it on, it would be drifting about 1 kilohertz per 10 seconds, and it would be way off frequency from where you thought you were going to be. So you turn it on way in advance, but I couldn't resist it. Now I showed you the picture of the Cybertruck there a minute ago. If you look closely, there's an antenna on that Cybertruck. It's sticking up. I don't know. I don't think it's a mag mount antenna. I should have gotten closer to see the mount, but I thought obviously it's a ham who's got a Cybertruck there. There's another shot. Maybe it's one of those lip mount antennas or something. But anyway, I thought it was cool. I always take a picture of a vehicle that has a lot of antennas. This one had about the most. I think I counted 8 or 9 on this one. There's a couple of little fractal antennas on there that are hard to see, but he had a bunch of them here. I like that. Now this is one where I hope the guy remembers to lower his antenna before he drives off. You can see he's got quite an array there on his bumper. It looks like, I mean, a lot of people would kill to have that much antenna in their backyard. He's got it on his trailer hitch. That's a pretty cool rig.
Is that actually his hitch?
Well, he had an extension in where the trailer hitch would go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was attached to. Was
And it was just like the hitch thing could support it.
Well, that receiver or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Remove that, put a mount in there. Another shot of Jonathan Naylor, the guy on the left, I can't remember his name. He is the inventor of the Zoom Spot, another hotspot device, but he developed it and he sells it through HRO and other people. These two guys were very big in the digital hotspot world. This is one of our friends from just west of here up in the Shenandoah Valley, Jason Ganachowski, KG4 FJC, who kind of helps take care of the 220 repeaters here in Richmond on the Channel 6 tower. They have a whole string of 220 repeaters in the Shenandoah Valley and as far away as West Virginia that these guys maintain. And they had somehow come upon a bunch of these, they're called Tape. That's the name of the radio. Tape was a commercial manufacturer like Motorola and those people. They made radios, and Jason and Tim Miller, KG4HOT, who also lives out in the valley and runs a whole bunch of repeaters out there. They had a table where they were selling these tape radios that they gathered up and were programming for ham frequencies. This is what a lot of guys do in the flea market at Dayton. They tell their wife, I'm going to Dayton to sell some of that radio equipment that you want me to get rid of. So they put a couple of pieces of radio equipment on a table, and they sit back there and they talk, and they don't care whether they sell their radio equipment or not. Like if they sold it all, then they would have trouble coming up with an excuse to go back to Dayton next year. So they really don't want to sell it. And if you really don't want to sell it, just set the price too high. Nobody will buy it. But it's just a meet and greet for them. It's a once a year event. They have their little tent there, so they're not sitting down in the sun or the rain, and they got their cooler under the table, and they're very content. But there's a lot of people like that, and I'm pretty much would expect that next year the same guys are going to be at the same table with the same, and they're going to be talking about whatever they want to talk about. But at least they got their weekend off. Because they said they were going to go sell radio. And of course, there's always somebody who brings something they just can't bear to throw it away. So he says, I'm going to take it to Dayton and I'm going to give it away. This was you spelled it a little funny here, free stuff, help yourself. And he says, please do not take the plastic boxes, I need them, the things that they're sitting on. They're worth more than the speakers that he's trying to get with the two plastic crates there that he brought. Almost at the end here, this was on the second night, my friend Ray and I and some other folks from the Richmond area went to a dinner that was sponsored by CQ magazine, which I think is still hanging by a thread. But this was a DX dinner where a lot of the big gun DXers from literally all over the world, they gave some awards to different people. And one of the guys that got an award was a heart surgeon from Brazil. And he brought his entire family up here and they introduced him. And they were all ham operators, like 6 people, his wife and his kids in there, their in-laws. I mean, it was really impressive to see how much, ham radio is such an international hobby and people, enjoy it from all over. But this was one of the dinners where I call them the rubber chicken dinners. You pay $50 for a really bad meal, but it's a good program and they give away some really good prizes. I mean, they give away, $2,000 or $3,000 radios and a whole bunch of gift certificates. I didn't win a thing. And I think one year I won an out of print ARRL book that I'm sure the league was giving away because they couldn't sell it. And it was so old, they just want to get rid of it. But that's okay. I didn't go to win a prize, but it was fun. So this is my last slide. And I thought it was just kind of cute to see how people carry their goods to their car. I was impressed that he had a method there. I would have thought pick it up and carry that big old roll of Heliax there, but he had a great solution.
He was hard to follow that.
Right.
Was MFJ there?
MFJ was not there.
Really?
They're shut down.
Right, but you'd think they would like offload their stuff.
Well, what we were joking because in past years at that DX dinner, they always gave an MFJ coffee mug to everybody for free as part of your ticket that you paid for. They gave coffee mugs and sometimes they had pencils and pads of paper. They always had it. I thought, well, I'm sure they're going to give away MFJ coffee mugs. They just want to get rid of them, but they were not to be seen.
So he's just up and down.
Yeah, so I guess they're gonna do something with all their coffee mugs, or maybe they stopped ordering the coffee mugs a few years ago. But anyway, it was great. I encourage you to go to Xenia, go to Hamvention if you ever have a chance. Or I told some people before the meeting, said, well, how much money did you spend? And I said, I spent money on food and a hotel and gas, but I did not buy one single thing at the Hamvention, even the flea market. Every year I used to have a routine. I would buy a bag of 259s. And then I looked at my cabinet one day and I had about 35 or 40 PL2. It's a lifetime supply. I don't need any more. So I quit buying PL259s. But it's still fun to go see things, talk to people that you have met, talk to designers of the radio. I want to ask them questions. It's a great experience. I highly recommend it. Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions for Wayne? Did you get the impression that Kenwood is on the way out of the ham radio business?
I think it could be in the next few years.
Because, I noticed they don't sell a mobile HF or VHF, UHF radio anymore.
Yeah. No, they clearly haven't introduced any new products in the last few years. That HT was the first new product, and that's been in the works for like 3 or 4 years. So they're slowing down. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Plenty of Cheez-Its in the back if you want to sample.